Good morning, guys. My name is Rich Dixon. I'm sure Kinder probably already told you that, but it's great to be with you this morning. Being out at the farm is always one of my favorite things to do. This is an odd way to do it. I'd much rather be out there in person, but these are sort of odd times. So this, I guess, is the next best thing. So I'd like to share a story with you guys this morning. But before I tell you this story, I want to put a little bit of scripture behind it. The scripture is in Matthew 14, and it's a story I'll bet you know. Jesus sent the disciples out in the evening and told them to row to the other side. And while they were heading across, there was a storm, and the wind came up, and they fought all night long trying to get across. They never made it. They were tired. They were probably pretty frustrated. And long toward morning, walking out of the mist, they look and they see somebody walking on the water. And the scripture says they were afraid. And then as he got closer, they realized it was Jesus. And he said something really curious to them. He said, "Don't be afraid." Now, that's an interesting message to us given what's going on in society right now. Don't be afraid. Easy to say, hard to do, but Jesus doesn't just expect us to do this on our own. He puts some stuff in front of it. He says, take courage. Don't be afraid. Now, courage, we know, doesn't mean don't have any fear. So he's not telling them they shouldn't have fear. Just like he's not telling us we shouldn't have fear. There's a lot of scary stuff going on right now. And he's not saying don't have fear. He's saying don't be controlled by the fear. Okay? Face the fear. But then he says something really, really powerful. He puts himself in the middle because the whole phrase is take courage. I am. Don't be afraid. And what he's doing there is saying to us, you don't have to do it by yourself. You can face your fears because you can lean on me. Take courage, I am. I'm here with you. Don't be afraid. Now, with that background, I would like to share with you the story that led up to all these crazy pictures that I've been showing you. The story starts with a set of Christmas lights. December 5th of 1987, I was putting some Christmas lights on the roof of a house, and I fell. I fell 9 feet. Now, 9 feet isn't a very long ways to fall, and it doesn't sound like a big deal, except I didn't land very well. And so, one minute I was on the roof, and then the next minute I was looking up at a paramedic, and he was telling me everything was going to be okay. And then there were some hours in a trauma center. And after 3-4 hours, the docs came in and they started saying things like spinal cord injury, paralyzed below your chest, permanent. That was 32 years ago almost. And about 5 weeks later, after some surgery and a little bit of recovery time, the therapist loaded me into my first wheelchair, and they rolled me out into a hallway. Now, you've been in hospital hallways, you know they're nice, smooth tile floors. And this particular tile floor had a red line on it like this one that was 10 feet long. And they gave me my first physical therapy goal. I was supposed to roll my wheelchair 10 feet without stopping. Now, that's not a big deal. I mean, rolling a wheelchair 10 feet on a nice, smooth floor, not that hard. If I was there in person, I'd demonstrate it for you. I can roll my chair 10 feet backwards now. But then I couldn't do it. Couldn't even budget, couldn't come close to 10 feet. And I couldn't do it for not just that day, but for weeks. I was stuck. I was absolutely stuck. And there's a whole great big story between how I got unstuck. But the part of the story that you need to hear about today involves this thing. It's a rather strange looking contraption. I'm going to guess a lot of you guys have never seen anything like this before. It sort of looks like a recumbent bike, but if you look for the pedals, you're going to discover that there aren't any pedals where you would expect to see them. That's because this thing's called a hand cycle. It's made for guys like me that can't use my legs to pedal it with my arms. And about 10, 11 years after my injury, some of my friends started bugging me to try hand cycling. They thought that this was going to be something good for me, and I thought they were nuts. I thought this was the craziest idea I had ever heard. And so they encouraged me to try it. I thought they were crazy. They came back and said, give it a try. I said no. And we went back and forth like that for a while, and finally, just to shut them up, I said, okay, I'll try it. So I got on my first hand cycle in March of 1999. First hand cycle ride was an epic success. I rode 2 blocks in 30 minutes. And when I got done, I couldn't wait to try it again. Man, it was amazing. The sense of freedom, the sense of finally being outside, doing something for myself, it was awesome. But you have to understand, 2 blocks in 30 minutes, you're not moving very fast. And so I started riding a little bit each day. And I got to tell you, there were mothers with kids in strollers that were walking past me as I huffed and puffed, first a couple of blocks and then a couple of miles. And then as I kept going, this crazy thing happened. I got stronger and I got better. About 10 years later, things were quite a bit different. Now you could ask yourself, what changed? What changed when I got on that bike? Was it some sort of miracle that happened? Did something magic happen when I got on that first hand cycle? I don't think it was a miracle, but I did find something that day. I didn't realize it until later, but what I found was hope. When I got on that first hand cycle, I found hope. And what I've learned in the years since then is that hope changes what's possible. Some of you guys have been in a place where there's not a lot of hope. And you know what that feels like. And I'm going to encourage you to think about the fact that hope makes all the difference. Hope, believing in the future because you can be confident that God doesn't break his promises. Hope changes what's possible. And so, as I rode year after year and mile after mile, first hundreds and then thousands of miles around Fort Collins, I got this crazy idea. I wonder if I could do a cross-country hand cycle ride. And so In 2011, my wife Becky and I met some friends at this place called Lake Itasca, Minnesota. Lake Itasca, Minnesota is where the Mississippi River starts, way up by the Canadian border. And over the course of the next 8 weeks, I rode my bike from there to New Orleans. 1,500 miles along the entire length of the Mississippi River. A guy who couldn't move his wheelchair 10 feet. Hope changes what's possible. We thought when we started that journey that it was just a one-time deal. But we discovered that God had other ideas. And so we sort of kept going. And over the course of the next 3-4 years, we did a bunch of other tours as well. And that led us to the story that I want to invite you guys into today. We've been doing since 2013 a series of bike tours. We do these things to support a group of kids that have been rescued from human trafficking. That sounds kind of all nice and sweet. What it really means is the kids that we support were born in a brothel. Let that sink in for a minute. These kids started out life with no hope. And now they live in a safe house where they have a chance at a life. They get an education, they get food and shelter and clothing and an opportunity to grow up into the amazing young adults that God always intended for them to be. And we want to invite you guys to join us on June 13th. We're going to meet some of you up in Cheyenne. Jump on our bikes. We'll head down Highway 85 to the Colorado-Wyoming border, and we'll stop there and take some pictures. Then we'll keep going south to Nunn. We'll stop there and rest a little bit. Then we'll come on over to Harvest Farm and eat lunch. And that's about a 48-mile ride. Some of you may want to keep going with us into Fort Collins, and that's fine too if you want to do that. Why in the world would you do it? Well, because bike riding's healthy, because it's a good thing to do, and because it's a chance to make your miles matter. This is a chance to do something for a cause bigger than yourself, to get out and sweat and sacrifice for a group of kids who really need our support. If you sign up for this, I'm not going to try to tell you it's going to be easy. Riding your bike from Cheyenne to Harvest Farm is not easy. It's hard. It's going to take some courage. It's easy to be afraid. It's easy to say, well, I can't do that. My bike's too broken down, or I'm too old, or I've never done anything that hard before. And if you're feeling that kind of fear, I just want to remind you of where we started this thing. Take courage. I am. Don't be afraid. You don't have to do this by yourself. There's a whole community of people here that wants to help and support you. Most importantly, you get to lean on Jesus. So if you are excited about this, if this sounds like something you want to do, what do you have to do? Well, there's 3 things. You need to sign up. Kendra's got a sign-up sheet, and she'll be happy to get your name, get your email, get a jersey size from you. You need to participate in some training rides, because you're not going to just jump on your bike and ride 50 miles without some practice ahead of time. So Kendra's going to have some a training ride schedule, and hopefully some of our team will come out and join you in some of that. But we'll get outside, we'll stay 6 feet away from each other, and get healthy and get strong and get ready for this thing. And then the last thing we got to do, maybe one of the most important thing, is we got to get our bikes in shape. I know some of you have been working on bikes, but some of you will need that. Kendra also has a couple of days scheduled where Homeless Gear guys are going to come out and help you out with that. If you need help with getting your bike in shape, make sure you let Kendra know, and we'll get started on that right now. Do not let not having a bike be the reason you don't sign up for this. We'll make sure you have a bike if this is something you want to do. Okay? So, it's great to be with you guys this morning. I hope that a lot of you will see this as something that's exciting and worthwhile. And once the weather warms up, I hope we get to see a bunch of you out on the road. Thanks. It's great to be with you this morning, and have yourself a great day at the farm.